Hi, Damila. Oh, 1 second. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us into the session. Can you confirm you can hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you so much. All right, thank you so much. I'm actually excited to be here today. So a quick introduction about me. My name is Emmanuel Itoje. I'm a Microsoft MVP as well as a Microsoft certified trainer. I'm one of the leaders in the Azure Nigerian community, and I would like to welcome all of us to our session today on our mega study series. In today's session, I will be looking at security best practices around AI workloads in Azure. That's what we'll be looking at for today's session. And the goal of the security best practices is to actually ensure that our AI and our machine learning workloads on Azure, we have best practices around for safeguarding our data, ensuring compliance, and also maintaining a robust governance. So essentially, the session will cover strategy for maintaining data privacy, implementing governance frameworks, and also securing end-to-end machine learning solutions in the cloud. So I will quickly introduce our speakers for today. So the person that will be speaking to us today is one of our leaders. His name is Damilola Afolabi. Damilola, thank you so much for joining us. Damilola is actually a multi-cloud engineer. He's also a principal full stack software engineer with various experience in the IT industry. So today he will be sharing his knowledge with us around what are some of the security best practices. And Damilola, before I hand over to you, what are the things that the participants should actually expect in today's session? So you're talking on mute. You're talking on mute. You can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Still can't hear you.
Uh,
I can hear you
Second.
now. Hear you
You can
now.
hear me now?
Yes, I can now.
Oh, great, great, great. Okay. Okay, so today we will be discussing the different security best practices for running AI workloads on Azure. Given the rise of AI, it's very important to safeguard our workloads, given that AI now exposes our infrastructure to much more data than ever before. And attackers can easily exploit um, those mediums to get access to private data belonging to you and I. And bad actors can use that to wreak havoc on the massive levels of havoc. Today we'll be exploring uh, different ways to safeguard that and yeah, to safeguard our workloads, our resources on Azure.
Awesome, awesome. I mean, I'm super excited for this session. I remember our last few sessions, we look at overview of Azure AI services, and also we touch base in the second session around the introduction to machine learning models. So I'm excited that today's sessions we'll be looking at how to secure. So it's just like a follow-up session from the last session, how to secure those things we spoke about in last week. All right, I'll be going backstage. Over to you.
Okay, great, great. So thank you very much for that introduction, Emmanuel. I'm sharing my screen now. Can we all confirm that we can see this?
I can see your screen.
Great, great, great. So, with the rise of AI, protecting your data and models in the cloud is critical for any organization leveraging AI. So this presentation, today's session, will outline the best practices for securing your AI workloads on Azure. Hello again, everyone, and thank you for joining. My name is Damilola Folabi. As Emmanuel has pointed out, I am a principal full stack software engineer at Boil of International, a software development company. And I have experience building cross-platform software for web, mobile, desktop, and across multiple cloud platforms. Okay. So again, today we'll be exploring the crucial topic of securing security best practices for AI workloads on Azure as artificial intelligence becomes increasingly integrated into various aspects of businesses. It's vital to prioritize security of your AI solutions. So we'll delve into the key considerations and strategies for protecting your valuable data and models in the cloud. So let's get started. So imagine a scenario where a malicious actor gains access to your AI model and that can predict customer churn. So they could manipulate the model to provide false predictions, leading to misinformed business decisions and potential financial losses. So you can consider an healthcare organization whose patient data is compromised due to a security breach in their AI-powered diagnostics system. So this could have devastating consequence for both the patient and the organization's reputation. Imagine a patient getting a diagnosis that they have cancer, and because of how these things, our health affect our decisions, they just go ahead to go and sell their assets, and 2 weeks later, they find out that, oh, this wasn't the case, it was a misdiagnosis. The customer, though the patient themselves has already lost a huge chunk of wealth and would come back to sue the healthcare organization for having been put in that precarious situation. This is just to explain the first, this is all part of the first slide of this discussion, which is the importance of AI security. Okay, so that example, those two examples just highlight why AI security is not just an IT issue, but a critical business concern. As AI becomes more prevalent, the value of data used to train these models and the model themselves increases exponentially. So, and the influence of this globally attracts targets for cyber attack because cyber perpetrators like to make names for themselves. And how best do you make a name for yourself if not to target something that has or an industry that has eyes on it? So a few points I want to touch on. First off, AI workloads, with their complex algorithms and fast data sets, are increasingly valuable targets. So attackers may aim to steal sensitive data, manipulate models for malicious purposes, or disrupt AI-powered services. Another point is data breaches, which data breaches in AI systems can expose confidential information, leading to financial loss, reputational damage, and legal liabilities. In the example I gave earlier about that patient. So give, for example, into that diagnosis system, let's say, for example, the way it works is you upload a record of your paternal history, say a record of your dad, your mom, into a system, and giving your blood work and your DNA or a sample of your blood that the health organization has, they're able to predict potential health risks that you are open to. So say someone goes ahead and uploads a malicious PDF or PNG file that then breaches the security of that system, giving them access to data of, let's say, important persons, like maybe the president or maybe the CEO of a bank. And for some reason, they just happen to find out that that CEO has some health risks, that may not allow them stay CEO for long, and then begin to blackmail them with those information. So given all of that, a robust security strategy is essential to protect your AI workloads from these threats. So this involves implementing security measures across all layers, from the data itself to the infrastructure hosting the AI solutions. The following slides will explore the key security considerations and the best practices for securing your AI workloads. So now that we understand the importance of AI security, let's delve into the key considerations for building a robust security strategy. I call this the pillars of AI security. What do you need to have in place? Like which parts require security? How do you know that, okay, you have a stronghold for AI security? So we're going to be discussing 4 pillars. Pillar 1 is data security. Like I explained earlier in that scenario, that example scenario with a data breach. So data security, this is the foundation of AI security. Your AI model are only as good as the data they are trained on. Okay, so protecting this data from unauthorized access, unauthorized use, disclosure, disruption, modification, or destruction is very crucial. So imagine a financial institution training a fraud detection model. And if the training data, which contains sensitive customer details, is compromised, it can lead to identity theft and financial fraud. Okay. So a system that is supposed to detect fraud would most likely be trained on data from existing transactions. Okay, so if that gets out, that it could be compromising for both the customer, it would be compromising for both the customer and the financial institution. Another pillar is the model security. So this involves protecting your AI model itself from attacks aimed at stealing, manipulating, or compromising the integrity of that model itself. So on one side, you have the data that trains the model. Another part, you have the model itself. So you can think of an autonomous vehicle, like one of those self-driving cars. So if their self-driving car model is tampered with, it can lead to malfunctions and potential potentially dangerous situations on the road. Yeah. So the car that is supposed to drive you forward is now driving you backwards, and for some reason you want to take control and it's not giving you control, uh, stuff like that. Another pillar is the infrastructure security. So you have the data that trains the model. You have the model itself that learns, and you want to call that in layman language, you want to call the model like the AI itself. Okay. So now you now have the infrastructure on which the model itself runs on. And securing this is a core aspect of, it's actually central to the infrastructure security pillar. So this includes securing the underlying infrastructure that hosts and supports your AI workloads. This includes the platform, the networking, the components, the compute resources. So in this case, an example would be a research institute, a research institute using AI for drug discovery, and they rely on high performance computing clusters because AI requires high computing. In most cases, AI requires high computing. So in this case, this research institute are using a cluster of computing machines to run their AI workloads. So a security breach in their infrastructure could disrupt their research, compromise valuable intellectual property, and even delay life-saving discoveries. Think about it like in the period of COVID-19 lockdown. So there are often, one of the major use cases of AI or machine learning has been in pharmaceuticals. So we have, I think I'm just going to slow down there. I want to explain genome sequencing. So it's a process where you take a DNA, because viruses, COVID-19, and bacteria and they have DNAs, and drugs are pretty much have chemical structures. So rather than you think about your grandmother, if you are called native to Nigeria, parents often use herbs to help us cure sicknesses. Okay, and herbs are pretty much a mixed match of different roots or different components that bond chemically together. In science or in pharmaceuticals, they kind of like I say mix match different meds because they have different chemical components and test them against different viruses to create vaccines. As a way to speed that up, they use gene sequencing, or genome research. Okay, it's pretty much mathematically computing what would happen when this drug hits this DNA, which is might be DNA of HIV or DNA of AIDS or cancer. Rather than test each individual drug in person, they enlist the use of AI or machine learning to do some high-level computing. So computing, think about like there are possibly like maybe thousands of drugs and medications and thousands of viruses. So different computations going on different levels. And that's where that's one of the reasons why they need to employ the use of clusters, because clusters often distribute computing across multiple computing infrastructures to speed up the process. So in the case of COVID-19, imagine there was like a research institute that was actually focusing on creating vaccines for COVID-19, and because of the lack of security implementations in their computing workloads, an attacker gains access to either their networking components or the compute resources itself. And that would be like literally detrimental to the entire world. It would be detrimental on the global scale. You might not know that because you and I are pretty much the customers or the patients. What we'll just notice is that there is delay in the results that these institutions are trying to give back, and that's why it's crucial to secure our infrastructure. One final pillar of AI security is compliance. So this involves adhering to relevant regulations and standards that govern the use of AI and data, such as GDRP, CCPA, and industry-specific guidelines, because in the computing space, particularly cloud computing, different bodies have come together to provide regulations, kind of like boilerplate templates about certain things that could help ensure the continuity of innovation or continuity of economic systems that allow you and I function proactively on a daily basis. An example of that is like, say, okay, an healthcare provider using AI for patient diagnostics. So they must comply with HIPAA regulations to protect patients' privacy and ensure perhaps without that HIPAA compliance, most healthcare providers could just go ahead and build solutions and then leave customer data or patient data exposed. Pretty much the example explanation I give regarding, say, a president of a bank having their patient data exposed. And it might not be that they actually have that illness. Let's say they actually don't have cancer and they just go in for, say, a check, say, a full body workup because they've been having consistent headaches. If an attacker gets access to that data and leaks it to the blogs or to news outlets, they could spin that off as him being ill. Medically might be a result of extended stress, but having access to that patient data would definitely put them at the mercy of bad actors. So by addressing all these 4 pillars comprehensively, you can build a strong security posture for your AI workloads on Azure. The data, security of the data, the training data itself, security of the model, security of the infrastructure that runs the model, and following certain compliances that are or some compliance rules and regulations that countries and regions have put in place for the continuity of services. In the following slides, we're going to explore these pillars in more details, and we'll discuss specific security measures and best practices. So protecting your data is valuable. So let's delve into the first pillar of AI security, which is data security. This is arguably the most critical aspect of your AI model are only as secure as the data they are built on. It's pretty much you trying to train a child what colors are, and you're pointing to red and saying, okay, this is red, and you're pointing to blue and saying this is blue. You're training the child on set data. But if somebody goes out and switches out that data for some reason, changes red to blue, that child begins to, you've like fully stunted the perception of that child moving forward. It's pretty much the same with AI in this scenario. So the first point, the first approach to protecting your valuable data would be encryption. So you want to encrypt your data both at rest and in transit. What does that mean exactly? So the data that you use to train your AI models or the data that your AI models will be interacting with needs to be encrypted wherever it is stored, whether it's a cloud storage or in a database, it needs to be encrypted at rest, such that when somebody actually gains access, if somebody gains physical access to the server on which that data is stored, they wouldn't be able to access that data because then it will be encrypted. So this ensures that even if, again, unauthorized access, whether a bad actor is trying to steal the data, goes to a server farm or a data center, or somebody at Microsoft themselves accesses that resource, that server, the data would remain unreadable. And how do you provide encryption? Azure Key Vault provides a secure and centralized platform for managing encryption keys. So you could encrypt your data using Azure Key Vault. I explained one part of those two encryption process. I explained encryption at rest, which is encrypting the data such that when somebody gains unauthorized access to the infrastructure, the data itself will remain unreadable. Another part is encryption in transit, and that's example of that is what you see on your website. So you visit the website and you see HTTPS. So that is SSL in practice, encrypting the data between clients, your browser, and the server, whatever Azure resource you are interacting with at the time. So a good example to also explain encryption is, imagine a retailer training a recommendation engine on customer purchase history. Encrypting this data with Azure Key Vault would protect sensitive customer information like credit card numbers and addresses from unauthorized access. Another security control for protecting your data is access control. So you can implement strict access controls to limit who can access your data. So there is a cloud storage, blob storage on Azure where your data is being stored. But you have thousands of employees in your organization, with access to that cloud tenant, to that Azure tenant. You can implement strict access controls to limit who can actually access that cloud storage itself, that blob storage itself. Even if it's a database as well, you can also implement access controls. And how do you do that? Azure Active Directory, or now Entra ID, allows you to define granular permissions and control access based on roles and responsibilities. In a research project using like sensitive genome data, access control can ensure that only authorized researchers and analysts can access and analyze data, preventing the misuse of, the misuse and unauthorized disclosures. So in the case of COVID-19, like I explained earlier, so the companies, the pharmaceutical industries are synthesizing different cures and testing them on those clusters. Data is stored somewhere, and peradventure somebody gains access to that, to their workload, to their infrastructure, because they didn't set up rule-based access controls to limit access. And they are this close to the cure. Say they've been able to synthesize and find out that, okay, we have this cure that we have is a 90% cure for COVID. So if I could backtrack and quickly explain this, when you go to the doctor and they give you meds, most often than not, you don't get one single med. You get maybe paracetamol, 2 paracetamol, and 1 Panadol, and they say, okay, use this twice a day, use this once a day. So that's a mixed match of different meds to cure an ailment. And that's because the combination of those meds together help solve that problem. So say they have a cure, they synthesize the cure that is a 90% match, a 90% cure, and they still need to synthesize a 10% cure, maybe by mismatching one other meds or something like that. If an attacker gains access to that, they could leak that secret, and then first, it creates competition. Number two is that because there's some rumor that COVID-19 was actually generated. I didn't fact check that. So you could go ahead and fact check that. There's some rumors surrounding that, okay, COVID-19 was lab made, So exposing that cure could be an extra motivation to create a different strand of COVID that would be much more resilient to that solution that has been created. Another security control is data masking. So for scenarios where you need to share data but protect sensitive, sorry about that, got lost for a second. Okay, so data masking. For a scenario where you need to share data but protect sensitive elements using, let me take that again. For a scenario whereby you share data, sometimes you might need to share data but not give complete access, So you can protect sensitive elements in that data using data masking. For example, you work in a software company developing natural language processing model, and they need to, that's natural language processor processes data, conversations, customer support conversations. Okay, how do you give access to your engineers without actually giving them access to, okay, who said this? You can use data maxing. Data maxing involves replacing sensitive data with realistic but fictional substitute. For example, data relating to Emmanuel Itoje that might be changed to maybe John Doe, or Jane X3568. So that's data maxing in practice. Another security control is Azure confidential computing. For highly sensitive workloads, you can leverage Azure confidential computing. This technology uses hardware-level security features to isolate your data and code in a secure enclave and protecting it even from privileged users within Azure. So a healthcare provider analyzing patient data for disease prediction, can use Azure confidential computing to ensure that sensitive patient information remains protected throughout the entire process, even from Azure administrators. So by implementing this data security measures, encryption, encrypting data at rest and in transit, access control, adding granular permissions to your users, data maxing, replacing private data with fictitious but real options, and confidential computing. You can significantly reduce the risk of data breaches and ensure that ensure the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability of your valuable data assets. So moving on to the next pillar, which is model, the protection of your model. This is model security. Here we're gonna discuss how to ensure model integrity and confidentiality. So model protection, you want to treat your trained AI model as valuable intellectual property. You protect them from unauthorized access, theft, and modifications. So this includes like securing the model files, configurations, and any associated code. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but there was a very recent leak of ChatGPT's design model. Okay, so the model is one that generates designs and images. But there was a very recent leak of that code, and Sam Altman has been on Twitter raging for a bit. Yeah. So that is pretty much an example of a model security being compromised. An example is a fintech company developing a sophisticated credit scoring model. They need to protect it from competitors who might try to steal it or reverse engineer it. So a secure storage and access control are essential to preventing unauthorized access, just like in the case of ChatGPT that I just explained. Also, we have integrity checks. So we can implement mechanisms to verify the integrity of your model. So this ensures that your model haven't been tampered with or corrupted. Regularly check for any unexpected changes or anomalies in your model behavior. So an e-commerce platform using AI for fraud detection needs to ensure model integrity. So regular checks can detect if attackers has injected malicious code to alter the model's prediction and allow fraudulent activities. And that brings us to the next point, which is version control. So you've done you've secured access to your code. You've implemented integrity checks to check, okay, has this changed? Has this changed? Now you now found out that, oh, this thing has changed. What do you do? One thing that could help resolve this fast is version control. So you can use version control system to track changes to your model. This would allow you roll back to previous versions if necessary and maintain an audit trail of model updates. So say, for example, a manufacturing company using AI to predict maintenance periods. So they use AI for predictive maintenance, and they need to track model versions. So they rolled out a new model, and they found out that, oh, this new model is actually performing poorly compared to the previous one. So they can easily just revert to a previously stable version and minimize downtime. You also have homographic encryption. So you can explore advanced techniques like homographic encryption to enable secure model training and inference. So this allows computations to be performed on encrypted data without decrypting it, preserving data privacy. So an example would be, say, an health organization collaborating with multiple research institutions. They can use homographic encryption to train a model on combined patient data from different sources without compromising the actual patient data. So by prioritizing model security, you can ensure the reliability of your model. You can ensure that your model is trustworthy, and confidentiality of your AI solutions too as well. So this helps maintain the integrity of your AI-driven decisions and protect your organization from potential harm caused by model manipulation or theft. So we've discussed securing your data. Now we've discussed securing your model. Now we're going to discuss, we're going to turn our attention to the foundation upon which your AI workloads operate. That is the infrastructure, the resources that run the AI models and store the data. So what areas can you actually secure when it comes to infrastructure, the AI workload infrastructure? The first is secure networking. You want to establish a secure networking environment for your AI workloads. You want to utilize Azure virtual networks to isolate your resources and control network traffic. You want to implement firewalls to restrict access and prevent unauthorized connections. So that could be implementing multiple subnets, implementing multiple NSG rules to allow traffic from set sources, and implementing perhaps routing, custom routing to route traffic through a set firewalls, whether the traffic is coming from the public or coming from within your Azure tenant. We could set up multiple layers of networking configurations. So a financial institution processing sensitive financial data with AI can use Azure virtual network to create a secure and isolated environment for their AI workloads and prevent external access and ensuring compliance with regulatory requirements. Another way you can secure the infrastructure is relating to compute security. You can add in your compute instances by applying security baselines and keeping your operating systems and software up to date with the latest security patches. So this itself minimizes the vulnerabilities and protects against known exploits. So to quickly break that down, security baselines are a set of rules or a set of minimum requirements that your, say OSs, operating systems follow, So you have the public accessible Windows OS, you have perhaps the enterprise versions. Then after Microsoft provides an update to their OS, you go ahead and then create some security changes to that OS itself to make it much more secure, on top of what is publicly provided. And when an a software update is provided maybe by Microsoft or maybe by any provider whose software you use, you implement that security patch as fast as possible. I've seen organizations actually run things like Patch Tuesdays, whereby on every Tuesday they go ahead and patch, implement new patches, So another area of security is platform security. You can ensure that is when you're not using infrastructure as a service and you're using platform as a service, there is solutions that are already available and that you can just plug and play using your developers can plug and play into. So you can leverage resources like Azure Security Center for continuous security monitoring and threat detection. So this service itself provides valuable insights into your security posture. It identifies potential vulnerabilities and recommends mitigation steps. Okay. So there's also Azure Private Link. You can use Azure Private Link to establish secure and private connections between your AI workloads and Azure services. So this ensures that your data stays within the Azure network and is not exposed to the public internet. So by securing your infrastructure, you can create a robust foundation for your AI workloads to run on, minimizing the risk of attacks and ensuring the availability and the integrity of your AI solutions. So this proactive approach to infrastructure security is using network security, securing the network itself, Azure virtual networks, multiple subnets, NSG implementations, maybe custom routing that routes your traffic through a firewall, And then also securing the compute instances through using baselines and implementing regular patches, and also utilizing platform security tools like Azure Security Center and Azure Private Link. They can help you strengthen your security posture, and they are essential to building trust and confidence in your AI-powered applications. So we've covered the technical aspects of securing your AI workloads. Now let's shift our focus to the equally important aspect of compliance. So here we're going to discuss meeting regulatory requirements. So there are data privacy regulations, available for organizations to follow. First, you want to understand and comply with relevant data privacy regulations, such as the General Data Protection Regulation and like the California Consumer Privacy Act. So this, particularly the General Data Protection Regulation, which is GDPR, you've most likely come across it over the internet, where you see a cookie and then they say, accept this cookie, accept or accept necessary. GDRP policies became much more enforced recently when they included a need for you to be able to delete your data. Say you go ahead and then own a Facebook account for a period of time. GDPR policies require that when you want to leave Facebook, you can request for Facebook to delete your data. Whatever it is they're using, whether they use it to train their models or use it for marketing. Once you request that your data is deleted, they are required to comply. So that is one of those regulations. These regulations, they impose strict requirements on how companies collect, store, and process personal data. So from the point of view of a service provider, which you are, you want to understand and comply with this privacy regulations because it can infer sanctions from governments. So it can infer sanctions from governments, which can come in maybe the board members being sued, or maybe the companies themselves being assigned some FT fee, and then there's also reputational damage implied. So there are also industry standards. So you want to adhere to industry specific security standards, such as ISO 2701001 for information security management. So these standards they provide frameworks and best practices for establishing and maintaining a robust security program. Next, you have Azure policy. You want to leverage Azure policy to enforce compliance policies across your AI workloads. So this service allows you to define and automate policies that govern security configurations, data handling practices, and access controls. So by prioritizing compliance, you can you demonstrate your commitment to responsible AI development and deployment. So this not only helps you avoid legal and financial risks, but also builds trust with your customers and stakeholders. Remember that compliance is not just a checkbox exercise; it's an integral part of building ethical and sustainable AI solutions. I'm gonna skip a few. Second, and sorry, I keep messing this up. Great. So while compliance provides a framework for responsible AI, it's essential to go beyond mere rule following, because now you're worried that, okay, this organizations or this government regulations might get me or get us if we don't implement this. So that's just doing the base level. You want to go beyond mere rule following and embrace ethical considerations in your AI development and deployment. And how do you ensure, how do you go beyond? And that is data privacy and governance for machine learning solutions. First, you want to employ data minimization. So you collect and use only the data that is strictly necessary for your machine learning tasks. So you avoid collecting excessive or irrelevant data that could pose security risks. So how do I put this? So say, for example, you have a company, okay, developing facial recognition system for security purposes. So there are banks and airports that use security cameras, and governments sometimes use those cameras to track and find perpetrators. So let's say you had a software or a company that's developing facial recognition system for security purposes. So This kind of company should only collect facial images and related data necessary for identification. And they should avoid collecting sensitive information like race, ethnicity, emotional state. What do they need that for? So by not collecting those data, you actually that is you implementing data minimalization. So you even reduce the what I call can't can't really remember what it's called, but the security. I'm just gonna skip that. There's a term I was trying to like look at there. So next is data de-identification. Wherever possible, you want to remove or oh my God. So obfuscates, you want to like remove or like randomize personal information, from your data set. So this includes like the risk, this reduces the risk of re-identification and protects individual privacy. Like in the example I shared earlier, so there's the data belonging to Emmanuel on our server. So when you want to work on that data as an engineer, rather than, because you will most likely be working on repeated data belonging to Emmanuel, rather than put his name out in blank, we just put a random name or a random user ID that just signifies or represents the data that you need to work on. Or we just remove that entirely. So another another point of recommendation is fairness and bias mitigation. So you can ensure your models are fair and unbiased, avoiding discriminatory outcomes based on sensitive attributes like gender, race, or religion. There's also transparency and explainability. So you want to strive for transparency in your AI systems, provide insights into how your models work and the factors influencing their decisions. So this builds trust and allows for better understanding and accountability. Aside the PR part of it, there will also be developers, passionate developers out there, security experts who would also test your theories and also provide feedback as to how to improve security posture of your, what I say, algorithms or AI workflows. Also, we have accountability. You want to establish clear lines of responsibility for the decisions made by your AI systems. You want to define, this defines who is accountable for the model's performance, its impact on individual and society, and any potential biases or errors. So by embedding these ethical principles into your AI practices, you can build responsible and trustworthy AI solutions that benefit both your organization and society as a whole. So remember that ethical AI, remember that ethical AI is not just a good idea, it's essential for the long-term success and sustainability of your AI initiatives. Finally, security is paramount for AI success. So translating ethical principles into practice requires adopting concrete data privacy measures. So let's explore some best practices for safeguarding privacy in your AI solutions. So we have differential privacy. That is when you implement differential privacy techniques to add noise to your data set while preserving valuable insights. So this makes it difficult to identify individual data points and protect sensitive information. So in this example, a government agency analyzing census data can use differential privacy to protect individual responses while still generating accurate aggregate statistics about the population. So this ensures that individuals cannot be identified from the released data. So, you don't end up that someone would say something and then would be held accountable for it because you want clean, unbiased data. There's also federated learning. Consider federated learning to train models on decentralized data sources without directly accessing or sharing the data itself. So this allows for collaborative model development while preserving data privacy and security. There's also privacy audits. So you want to conduct regular privacy audits to assess your AI systems for potential privacy risks. So this involves reviewing the data handling practices, the security controls, and compliance with privacy regulations. Finally, you want to stay informed. So stay informed about the latest privacy regulations. So the best practice, technological advancements in the field of data privacy. So this allows you to adapt your AI solutions to meet evolving privacy requirements and protect user data effectively. So that might be like you might attend industry conferences and read research papers and follow privacy experts to stay updated on the latest developments in data privacy. So this knowledge helps you make informed decisions about your AI development and ensure your solutions remain privacy preserving. So by implementing or incorporating these best practices into your AI development cycle, life cycles, you can build privacy preserving AI solutions that protect user data while delivering valuable insights. Remember that data privacy is not just a legal obligation, it's a fundamental ethical principle that should guide your AI initiatives. So, and given the wild rise or evolution of AI or wild adoption of AI in today's world, the availability of data and use of data becomes much more larger. And as that it becomes exponentially larger, and as the wide and use of data becomes larger, so does the importance of data privacy and security in today's world. So thank you. Next up, I would have if anybody has questions. Emmanuel, you there?
Thanks. Thank you so much for that insightful session. Awesome. It has been an
That was
awesome and
extensive.
insightful session. As you're delivering the session, key things were coming to my mind around securing AI resources, be it a resource on Azure Machine Learning, Azure AI Studio, which is currently called Azure AI Foundry, then even the Azure Open AI itself. Another thing that comes to mind was securing the AI models itself. Like we have tools around the Microsoft Defender for Cloud, which you can actually help use to implement threat protection for all AI models, to protect AI models from threats like either prompt injections, attack, and even the model manipulations. And the tool itself provide a continuous monitoring of AI workloads, helping to detect, to prevent emerging threats, because a lot of these guys are also using the AI for sophisticated attacks. Then things also around monitoring output and even applying prompt shielding, by regularly inspecting the data that are returned by AI models to detect and also to mitigate risks associated with those malicious and even the unpredictable user prompts. So those are things that were coming to mind. Even things around secure access too was coming to mind, especially when you mentioned the Microsoft Entra ID for authentication, then configuring authentication by either you enable multi-factor authentications or even using a preferred secondary administrative account or using a just-in-time access with privileged identity management. So those are things that are coming to mind. Thank you so much for that insightful session. So thank you everyone for joining. So if you have any question, the floor is open for you. If you have any question, you can just raise up your hands. Why you can go ahead and unmute your mic so we know you have questions. So I don't know if you have anybody that has questions based on what Damola has delivered for us this evening. I mean, I learned a lot about this process. Security is actually paramount for AI success. You know, a lot of organizations today, they are afraid of AI, taking their data, organizations using those models, they are afraid that their data will be used to train those models, right? Those are not the things that most of these organizations do. They create the AI models, they exist, the organization data stays within your organization. So do we have any questions so far? Any question? Do you have any question? So while I'm waiting for questions, for our second session today, we'll not be holding today again because once you move it, since we still have a final session next week, Saturday, we'll be discussing about our Azure storage. So we have one of our MVPs that will also be coming on board to talk to us about overview of blob storage, file storage, disk storage, and want to discuss some use cases on how to choose the right storage option for your needs. So after that session by next week, then we'll have the second session today by next week where we'll discuss overview of everything we've learned around from the Azure DevOps, talking about the pipelines, the repos, the board, and the artifacts. Then talking about the Azure Security Center and best practices for cloud security. We'll talk about the Microsoft Defender for cloud. Then we'll also look at security data using Azure encryptions that you mentioned, whether we are using the key vaults and also the data encryptions. So we had a session to you by one of our leaders, Tizilope, taught us that. Then the overview of the compliance to the Azure policies and the Azure blueprint to which was also taught by one of our MVP, Raf. So we'll be looking at summary of everything. Then we'll have a general open discussion by that next week. Then even what we discussed last week, talking about the overview of the Azure AI offerings, the cognitive services, the bot services, and the likes, and as well as the Azure Machine Learning Studio that we also talked about last week. So next week we'll be expecting us to join that particular session because it actually promises to be great because you have a lot of MVPs that will be joining the sessions and it's going to be a lot of interactions. So thank you so much everyone for joining this session. And in the absence of no other question, no questions for today, then I'll take it that Damila has done a good job. Okay, Shison, you come up with you have a question, you can go ahead to ask your question.
Hi, Emmanuel.
Hi, Shison.
Hi, Dami. Thank you very much
Hello.
for a beautiful section. I really appreciate your effort on this. So my question is basically on the encryption part. It's more of like a clarification though, because I
Okay.
just want to, because when you have the encryption enabled in your organization, I believe the key vaults would be given to trusted individuals in the organization. So I would like to know what are best practices when an individual in the organization actually goes rogue and you'd want to set up and um, you would want to set up a detect and you'd want to prevent unauthorized access or misuse by trusted individuals, like setting up it's more of like setting up a prompt for insider threats, basically. I don't know if you got my question, Dami.
So, okay, you have a team member who has certain access and then goes rogue with said
Yeah.
access.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's more of like how to mitigate vulnerabilities when a member goes rogue.
Okay. So, if I should okay, if I can backtrack and explain this from the position of security. So having a security posture, a good security posture starts from rules-based, implementing good role-based access controls. So first off, you want to implement least privilege principle. So that what that means is that nobody has access to much more than what they need. So if you are a database administrator and you are working on one database, you shouldn't have access to the entire suite of Azure resources. You should most likely just have access to that database. And when it comes to security of data, which is where I think your question is posited at, okay, you could implement managed identities, which are given, or system assigned managed identities, which are given onto groups and then rendered onto resources in that group, such that, say, you have a web app accessing database that has patient records. So what you are doing in that scenario is you are giving that web app access to that database. So only that web app can access that database using set privileges or set identities. So even when a user tries to access that database, they're unable to access that database. And when it comes to Azure Key Vaults, using, again, the principle of least privilege, certain users wouldn't even have access to the key vault itself. They won't be able to list those keys because you've actually given access to, you've implemented least privilege access. Now, when it comes to using those keys, that web app would have access to the keys it needs to decrypt those data, both the database, the data in database or the blob storage. So that's pretty much like limits your attack surface, if I can put it that way. So it limits your attack surface. So, and one more thing is that aside the fact that there are certain security controls and tools that are available on Azure to use to reduce your attack surface, there is also the human element of every security architecture, which security experts have often said that the human element is the weakest of it. So if you go ahead and implementing least access principle and then creating an audit trail that is constantly monitored, can do much more, can most likely cover 60 to 70% of your security posture. Now, given that security architecture that I've just like, that brief security architecture I've explained, a kind of team member that would most likely be able to do damage should that organization architecture will most likely be an admin, and that would point to the part that I mentioned, which is like humans, people are the weakest link to security. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, let me add to that. I mean, right? So Microsoft, apart from Microsoft tools and technologies, they all work together, right? Because of that, with the cloud security posture that Dami mentioned, as well as so Microsoft has a tool called the Microsoft Purview. So one of the solution in the Microsoft Purview is what called an insider risk management. So integrating that too, right, with the models and with securing the Azure keywords will actually help them to ensure that any insiders, right, that want to help to minimize internal risks by enabling to detect and also to investigate and act on any malicious or even inadvertent activities in your organizations. So that's what that tool does. So with the help of insider risk management from the Microsoft Purview, it can also help in preventing that from happening.
Okay, very much. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah. So we have a question from Okay, yes, you can unmute your mic and ask your question.
All right. Good evening.
Hi, good
Can you hear
evening.
me?
Yes, you can.
Yes,
Go ahead.
yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. Quick one. I just want to contribute to what the question the last person just asked. I think with Azure Monitor, you can also track who is doing what on what resource at what time. Also, you can set an alert when setting on Azure. So let's say, for instance, when he was talking about uh, probably creating an infrastructure or something that. So you can actually do that to set an alert to alert probably a senior team leader to know if something is going wrong, and also help you to say this act should not. I think that can be.
Thank you so much, okay, for that contribution. Thank you so much. Do you have more questions? So, Chisa, I drop in the chat a link to learn more about incident risk management. In case you want to see more things that that particular solutions can do for you, preventing users risks from the internal users. Sometimes sometimes the risk will maybe even the users might not even be a malicious user. User might be somebody that is not maybe aware enough about organization policies and is trying to do something and he doesn't know that from the modern risk pinpoint is not is part of things that are listed as things an employee should not do, especially people joining organizations. We have employee handbook available for that. I know I'm actually a copy of that. I never read my employee handbook. So in case there are some policies, the HR team always send us email every week bi-weekly about reminder of some policy, key policies, so that people will not say that I'm not aware of it. Yeah. So it's actually very good too. Thank you so much. Okay, so Azure Monitor 2 is also one of the tools that you can use to monitor since the resource is actually sitting on Azure itself. So the Azure Monitor, like you mentioned, setting alerts and all that to notify maybe a particular group, maybe you want to notify the senior IT teams about what is happening, then it will also help to mitigate that risk. I don't know if you have more questions. Do we have more questions so that we can round up the session? It's already 15 minutes after the time. All right, so thank you so much, everyone, for joining today's session on security best practices for AI workloads on Azure. So we're going to see everybody next week about overview of Azure storage services and best practice and the one that is actually best for any use case based on what you want to do. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Bye for now. And thank you, Dami, for a wonderful session again.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye. Hi, Gabriel, can you leave the session so that the recording can stop? Because the person that is supposed to stop is not here.